Hello, everyone. We are so excited that you're with us. And today we have Lee Tessier. He is a Baltimore native and he's a friend that we've known for a long time. He has sold over 4,700 homes. He has surpassed $1 billion in sales and he crushes it all the time. He's got an amazing team. Today we're talking about business planning. We're talking about daily goals, weekly goals, New Year's goals, and how to find out what your DISC score is with motivators. So lots of really great stuff. So Lee, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
Great to see you. So a lot of people are, setting goals, and it's funny because they're like, I feel like the goals are really weak. So like someone will say,
Mhm.
well, I made 10 calls and every single day this week, but I didn't set any appointments. I'm still not getting where I need to. How would you respond to that?
I think it is. We have to break it down in bite-sized pieces, but also like, what are you trying to achieve? So I think if you're looking for like 4 settlements a month, you need to have roughly 8 appointments, 8 new appointments every month at a 50% conversion, say roughly, you'll get four sales out of it. So if you figure 8 appointments, that's 2 appointments a week. How many calls do you have to make? It just depends on you. But I would say generally for my team, we always tell them a minimum of 20 calls per day, which is still on the low side, but getting them to consistently do 20 calls a day, that's 100 calls a month, Monday to Friday. And that is for them, 3 of their top 50 calls. So who's the 50 of their top clients that they're constantly following up, friends, family, stuff of that sort. 2 other sphere calls, and then 15 lead follow-ups. The lead follow-ups could be like our lead pond, new leads coming in, but a lot of old, like old leads are actually some of the best leads out there, but people aren't digging enough for them. Because when we go fishing in our pond, we have about 41,000 people in our lead pond. When they call and then they're like, oh, they bought, oh, they bought, oh, they bought. I'm like, yeah, there's gold in there. You just got to go sifting for it. You got to make the calls.
Yeah, talk about that because I think that is such a huge piece. Because what will happen is they'll go, okay, they'll listen to a podcast like this, and you and I will be like, there's gold in those old leads. So they call the first five and they're like, I already bought a house. I just bought something
Mm-hmm.
3 months ago, whatever. They keep doing that. And how do they push through? What's the mindset to get them to keep calling those old leads? Because they really are gold.
Yeah. So mindset's everything, first of all. So if you think you can, you're right. Or if you think you can't, you're right. So if you go in thinking these leads are old leads, they're terrible, they're not buying anything, and then you're going in with that mindset, you're usually your tonality is not good, your mindset on how you're talking to them, the things that you're saying is not coming out. You're just surface level. Hey, how are you doing? Are you still looking for a house? Like who wants, like they already had like the average, so average internet leads out there is about 150 million internet leads, and less than this year was be less than 4 million homes sold. If you go back to 2011, there was about 5 million homes sold and about 5 million internet leads. So you went from 5 million to 150 million, so 30 times the amount. So these people are talking to other agents and they're getting the same thing, like, oh, are you still looking for a house? Like, what value are you bringing to the client? First of all, are you checking in? Hey, I've seen that you've been looking in the Bel Air area in the 400,000 range. We just had an off market deal come up. Are you still looking? Like, there's
Oh my
value.
gosh, say that again. Everyone type this in the chat because this, what he just said, is gold. All right, say
Yeah.
that again, Lee.
All right. So you're calling through the pond. You see that they've been searching in Bel Air. So for us, Bel Air is like where my office is. They are looking at a $400,000 price point. And you had like, hey, one of the listing appointments that week was 400,000 in Bel Air. So I would call them and say, hey, I see that you've been searching in Bel Air area in the 400,000 range. Are you still looking? Because I have an off market deal that just came up. I didn't know if you're still in the market. And when you say that, you're like, you got engagement. You've been totally different than anybody else. Of like, hey, are you still looking for a home? I'm from ABC Real Estate Company. Are you looking to buy? An off-market deal could be anything like you're getting a listing agreement signed. You went to a listing appointment, or somebody on your team went to a listing appointment, and they know that they're going to sell, a house in Bel Air. That's off-market deal. Something that's coming soon that's not on the market yet. For us, we keep a spreadsheet for my agents. So we call it a matchmaker. So it's all of our buyers that are looking that haven't found anything, and all of our sellers that are either went to a listing, or agent went to a listing appointment, didn't sign it yet, or that they're thinking of selling, or it's coming up and it's not in the MLS yet, it's coming soon. Because for us, we have to be coming soon in the MLS. So that gives them a cheat sheet that's an off market deal, right? Or you know that somebody else, hey, I have a buyer that's going to sell a house that's in that area in that price range. That's an off market deal. Doesn't mean they're going to sell it right
Or
this
even a
minute.
FSBO, right? Because
Right. Yeah.
you can actually say that for everyone, because you can go into Zillow right now, whatever price range they're looking for, and you can find a FSBO. So by you saying that statement, you're not lying. Even if you don't have the
Correct.
other three things he talked about, there is a FSBO that's out
Mm-hmm.
there. And you can say, the goal is, well, we can meet and talk about that one.
Right.
And then you could call the FSBO, create a 3% commission or whatever commission you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? And get that deal. All right, great. What's another line that they can say working these old leads that can get them an appointment?
I would just say, hey, look, I know the average person, like an average pay-per-click lead is 13 months. So, and keep in mind, a lot of people have been looking for over a year, and then because our rates got so out of control and went up to 8%, now if you haven't paid attention, it's down to like 6.62. But now rates have come back down. Now people are coming back into the market again. So I'd say, um, hey, I know you've been looking for the last 12 months or so. Has anything changed in your search? Were you waiting for interest rates to come back down? Tell me what it is that you're waiting for. How can I help? And that way it opens up, and then let them talk, 2 ears, one mouth. So in a matter of time, like us salespeople just want to talk and like really pay attention, but make sure you're digging deep enough to find the information. So what is it that they're looking for? What's caused them to wait? Do they have, like we've been in a needs-based market, right? If they want to buy, they're not buying a house. They need to buy a house or they're not buying one in the last 12 months because prices are so high and interest rates are so high. So what pain do they have that you're helping them dig for, and what's making them wait? Oh, I think rates are going to drop to 3%. Okay, well, it's going to be probably a long freaking time before that happens again. Okay, what about if it got to 5%, it got to 6%? What is it? Are you locked into a 3% rate now? Find out what's their current situation. Are you renting or do you own a house? If you own a house, what's your current interest rate? Ask them. Because if they're handcuffed at 3% and they don't have enough need, they're not going to buy, and don't waste your time for a while. Put them on a search and don't go show them houses.
What would you say to someone? I've heard people say, well, I spent 3 hours each day this week prospecting, but I didn't set any appointments. What's kind of, if you had to dig deep and figure out what the problems are, what is it? If they're spending all this time, but they're not setting appointments and converting, where are the real problem areas?
My number one thing would be, was any of the calls recorded that we could go back and listen to them? Let's go back and listen to them some and see what they've been saying. Because sometimes they think they said something and they didn't say it. Or like when we do role play, they'll say, oh, that's exactly what I said. And I'm like, no, it's not. You said X, Y, Z. This is what it was actually supposed to be said. You said, I'm just trying to think for example.
Well, they're not asking for the appointment. Like a lot of them are just calling to chit chat. Good. How are you? Nice to talk to you. They never asked for a referral. They never asked who do they know who's looking to buy or sell. They're just making contact and they're not wanting to seem too pushy. So they're kind of asking. I will tell you, I just had a friend that owns a cleaning company, and she said, hey, we've got some people who are free right now. We're looking to get their house cleaned. Do you know it? Like just straight up, we
Right.
need some more houses to clean. Do you know anyone who wants to get their house cleaned for Christmas? I sent her, two people, right up front. There was no skirting around the issue.
Right.
She was
Right.
like, who do you know who needs their house cleaned? And a lot of people are just not wanting to be straight. You can't always be that straightforward.
Sure. Well, you have a
But
relationship. It started
you gotta,
because you have
yeah.
a relationship with her and you're open enough to say, hey, just ask me for referrals. I don't have a problem with it. And if you ask your clients, like for us, for our top 50, we ask them like, hey, I don't want to ask you if you have a referral every time I talk to you. But if I'd say, hey, am I top of mind? Would I be the agent that you refer to when you hear somebody talking about real estate? I'm going to check in with you once a month and have a conversation with you and see how you're doing. But I don't want to ask you for a referral. Can I be top of mind for you that you would refer me? Do I have permission to text you periodically? Like, hey, do you know anybody that's looking to buy or sell real estate? Are you okay
Oh,
with
I
that?
like
Get their
that.
permission. But it's amazing when you ask, like, you have to build a relationship first. You can't just have, go into that conversation. But if it's a cold lead and like, hey, are you looking to buy now? And like a pay-per-click lead, if you went in and like, hey, do you want to buy today? Most of them aren't buying today. But I'd say, hey, I'm assuming your search is probably for the next 12 to 18 months. Is that what you're looking, or do you need to buy sooner than that? Because that way you're lowering defenses all the time. And it's like going into the store. Do you need any help? No, I don't need any. No, I'm just looking, because that's the first thing everybody says. No, I'm just looking, even if you know specifically what you want. But if somebody walked in and said, hey, I see that you're looking in the pants section, or you're looking for a particular pair of pants, that, then they're going to answer the question. But rather than just saying, hey, do you need any help? Be more
Yeah, so
pointed
that's
with
a
your
great point.
questions.
So what are the specific questions that they need to ask to get like exactly what you just said? Like, do you have an event that you're looking for
Yeah,
this weekend, or are you looking for
right.
pants or a shirt? What would be
We
the specific questions they need to ask?
Yeah, I mean, so we still use LP Mama across the board because it works. It's like going in, digging for location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment. You're hitting those 6 key things, but it's just very conversational.
Okay, go through those one more time.
Sure. Location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, and appointment.
Okay.
So it's very easy conversation. I mean, if you want to role play, I'm fine to do that. If you want to
Yeah,
have
let's
conversation and
do
do
it
it.
real quick. Okay.
Okay. So I'm calling you. You've been searching in the pond for a house in Bel Air for 400,000.
Okay.
I'll be like, hi, is this Chantel?
Yes.
And sometimes I'll start with that, and sometimes I already assume that you're Chantel. Sometimes I'll just say, hi, Chantel, this is Lee Tessier. I'm calling. You've been searching in the Bel Air area for a $400,000 home. And I don't know if you found everything or not, but we just had an off-market deal, and I wanted to see if it's still something that you would be interested in.
Oh yeah, it feels like nothing on the market's working. So if you have an off-market deal, that'd be great.
Yeah, that way you're not competing with 30 offers and all that, because that $400,000 price point is super, super competitive right now. It looks like you've been looking for at least 12 to 15 months. Is that right?
Yeah, but I'm starting to really get antsy now. I've got to move very shortly.
Okay, so tell me what's going on that's making you move.
I'm having another baby.
Oh, congratulations. So you're running out of space?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now, are you in a 2 or 3 bedroom? What do you have now? What are you currently?
3 bedroom.
Okay. And do you currently own that house, or are you renting?
Someone's gonna record this and send it to my husband. He's gonna be like, "What?"
Yeah, we're just going to cut that little excerpt and say you'll never believe what you said. Oh my God.
Right. Yeah, there you go. But so you're just going in like, all right, do you currently own, or are you renting that home?
I own right now.
Okay, good. And so that one's too small. You're looking for at least another bedroom. Is there any other things that are must-haves?
Um, I think that's basically at least one or two more bedrooms.
Okay, so I'd take usually like a little bit deeper dive there, and then I'm like, all right, have you been in any homes lately?
We go to open houses every weekend.
Okay, great. And have you gone out and looked with any agents yet, or are you just mainly going by open houses?
We have a few people who've reached out, but mainly we go to the open houses every weekend in the areas we want.
Okay, great. And you don't have any signed agency agreement that you'd had to worry about stepping on somebody's toes?
No,
Okay, great. And then how about are you paying cash, or are you financing?
financing.
Okay, great. And have you spoken to a lender that's broken down a good faith worksheet for you and done pre-approval? The good faith worksheet would
No,
break
not
down.
yet.
Okay, great. So the good faith worksheet would break down your out-of-pocket expense, what your monthly payment would be, and what the closing costs would be. Do you think that would be helpful?
Yes.
Okay, great. What I'll do, are you generally available mornings, afternoons, evenings? When's the best time for a phone call?
Evenings, yeah.
Evenings. Okay, great. What I'll do is one of our trusted lenders, I'm going to have them reach out to you this evening. Then is after 5 better, or what time's better?
Yeah, around 5 is
Okay,
perfect.
okay, great. What I'll do is I'll start a joint text between you and them. So a 3-way text. Just so I've seen somebody about cheating on you. So I was like, all right, and we'll talk about 3 ways here. So I'll start this 3-way text, and that will give you the information for the lender. So when they call you, you know who they are. And then they'll do the pre-qualification, give you a good faith worksheet that breaks down that closing cost, the monthly payment, and what your out-of-pocket expense would be. And then so the next phase would be, let's set a strategy session up. We can either do it by Zoom, or we can do it in person and actually go through what's going on in the market. And I can get more information on this off-market deal and tell you more about that. and see exactly when we could get in there. And I'll get all the details to make sure it's of interest for you exactly. And then it also fits within what you're looking for with the lender as well. So so you said evenings are generally best. Is that when you and your husband are available?
Yes, tomorrow afternoon would be great.
Okay, great. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
5 is great.
5's great. Okay, let me just double check my schedule.
So,
Yeah, it looks
so
like
go through the LP So this would be great for
So I
everyone
am.
having that LP mama just in
Yeah.
the back of their mind. So L stands for location, P
Location,
is price,
price,
M is
motivation,
what their
motivation,
motivation is, A is are you
agent,
working with another agent,
correct.
M is the
Mortgage,
mortgage, and then the last is set the
appointment.
appointment. I like it.
Yeah, because
So it's kind of
you
like
had,
in your mind, you're like LP mama, those 6
yeah. So
things.
if you
Am I
like
doing
when
that
we
every single time?
yeah when we role play it, they'll write out just LP, just the initial LPMA if they've been doing it for a while. My newer agents will write out location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment. But since I started and I said to you like, hey, is in Bel Air at 400,000, I just assumed when you said, oh yeah, I would really be interested in that off market deal. That kind of took out otherwise I would usually say, tell me more about the area that you're looking in. And they're like, well, I really want to be in Bel Air schools or Falston schools or something on those lines. And that way, or I want to be 15 or 20 minutes away from work. Okay, where do you work? Oh, I work at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Those type things kind of open it up and give us more conversation. And then we can get, okay, what's your price range? Well, I really haven't talked to a lender yet. So when I got you hooked up with a lender, the lender is also going to help give us the value of what you're going to spend. And then we're going to do that before we go show you houses, because I just set an appointment just to meet you, do a strategy session. Because a strategy session in today's market, you really need to do is like, let's talk through, hey, let me show you what you've been looking at. These 400,000 homes or $400,000 homes are typically selling at 440 or 450. I just want you to be prepared. Just because it's listed at 400 doesn't mean it's going to sell for 400 unless it's way
I love that.
overpriced.
And you guys should have that LP mama written down next to you, because no matter how long you've been doing this, you forget to ask some of these questions sometimes. I don't care how long you've been in the business. You need that kind of little acronym to
Cheat sheet.
yeah, did I ask
Yeah.
all the questions I needed to ask? I love that. All right. So let's talk about the motivation behind some of the things. And I'd love for everyone right now to type in the chat something of a goal that you want to achieve. And I'd love for you to tell us some of your team members, when you share goals with people of what you want to achieve for the new year, it actually really helps other people. Like I remember one time I heard someone, put on there that they wanted to go to, like, one of their things, they wanted to plan a trip to Israel. And I was like, you know what? I really want to go to Israel too. If it's
Mm-hmm.
specific, it kind of, makes other people. So give us like some sample things that people write down for goals on your team that you kind of remember.
Yeah. So a couple of things to go along with that. Also, have this discussion with your significant other, because I'll give you a story with mine. So when I was writing out my goals and I was talking to my wife and I said, what are some of the things that you want in life? Tell me what you want out of life. And she's like, well, I want the kids to be happy. I want this. I'm like, I can't control that. Can you control that? You can't control if they're going to be happy or not. I was like, give me something like, what would be a bucket list item then? And she said, well, I really want to go to Italy. And then Paul McCartney, she loved the Beatles. So she's like, I really want to see Paul McCartney live, but good luck because he's almost 80 years old. But I'm glad I asked that because this was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, all right, that's on my goal list. I keep moving it forward till, he was coming around. Well, he happened to be coming. He came to Baltimore this past summer and tickets went on sale in February. And I happened to see, I was like, oh shit, Paul McCartney's coming in. And I was like, I know this is a big one for her. So I was able to get in early to get tickets and I got her like 10 rows from the field. And, I told her afterwards, like, hey, I got, we spent a fortune on them, but at the same time, it was a bucket list item for her. But if I didn't ask the questions during my goal setting, I would have never known it was that important to her. And I would have been like, if we got tickets and went, and maybe we had nosebleed seats or something, but instead I got 10 rows from the field or 10 rows from the stage that she was ecstatic about. So dig deep, especially some of you guys are not as motivated by money. So we'll talk about motivations. So if you're not as motivated on money wise and you just set dollar volumes and units, it's not going to mean a lot. So make sure you go back to what your values are. Your values could be hey, I want to take my kids to, Disney, and we're going to stay at such and such resort, and and I need $20,000 to do it. So you know what that plan is. That way you can kind of back into it, but it has to be tangible or meaningful to you and meaning to your values. Otherwise, you're probably not going to go after it and really hit the goals for those reasons. So just make sure when you're doing it. Getting back to some of mine, like I have one of my agent's goals in front of me. For him, he wants to sell 50 million this year. And he broke it down like 12.5 million per segment, because we use pillars of business of like, where are they hitting? Let me see if I have it in here that I could show you. Pillars of business would be like referral, Zillow, open houses, circle prospecting. What are they good at that they're going to go after and go after their business for? His life plan would be he has one kid now. He wanted to have a second kid. That's in his 5-year plan, because we look at stuff when we're goal setting is, I want 5 years out. So you're looking big picture, 1 year out, and then 6 months. That way they're thinking longer term down the road. So he had 2 children, 3 rental properties, save an additional $100,000, making sure he's getting 4 to 5% interest, interest on that. Let's say put $80,000 aside for his son's education. For the number one kid, for the second kid, have another 40,000 set aside for that one.
I want to tell you, one of the reasons why I joined and I just love Canzel is that I can get 100% commission, I get revenue share, and I get stock. I am making thousands of dollars every single month in revenue share and stocks. And I now don't have to work nights and weekends on real estate anymore. I've actually never been to a real estate agent's retirement party, and I want to be the first one that people are coming to at a young age. And I want to share with you some of my favorite resources. So if you go to joincanzel.com/free, there's a couple that I want you to download. One is a 20 free lead generating PDF. It's going to help you generate leads for free that you can download, as well as there's one on how to double your business. I don't want you to miss it. Go download it today. joincanzel.com/free.
So those are good. And I guess I'd love for you, right before our talk today, we were talking about motivations, and you were talking about your Christmas party. And I want you to share what you talked about with your wife, and then go right into the different motivations. So we all, I think, are at the point we all know what DISC score is. If you don't know what DISC score is and what your DISC is, go to joincanzel.com/DISC, and you can see some information there. And I'd love for you guys to all type in the chat right now what your DISC score is, so we can all know, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I am a D, then an I, then a C, then an S. What are you, Lee?
I am SC now, with motivators of a high D.
You are an SC? No way. You really are?
So that's my DISC, that's my behaviors, but my motivators are my how I react to things. So I like a high D in that, because economics so important, and political. Political is not politics. It's just how you react, individualistic, trying to get get things done, that type of thing. So your behaviors change over time. Like my behavior changed when I became a grandfather, as my team grew, all those things. I went from a DI to a CS, an SC. So right now I'm a 77C, 77S. So, and then my D is like a 50, but my motivators, my economics, a 99. So you really base more on, I just had a behavioralist guy here that he went through DISC. His company's called You Don't Know DISC, DISC. And he really went for a deep dive in motivators, because the motivators are more important, because that's your values. So your values typically don't change over time. You stay pretty steady. Where DISC, those levels change because it's behavior. Behavior is constantly changing.
Wow. So you're saying there's 7 different behaviors, or your motivators. So talk about
Correct.
that. Kind of tell the story you were telling me about your wife and the Christmas party, and how that has to do with the aesthetic.
Yeah, so my wife is loves interior design and decorating, and really good at it. So when we decided we were doing, it's a higher end catering hall, and it's a newer place, and they have one of a more popular restaurants here, the owner. So it's the same food as that restaurant at this catering. So I was like, all right, look, I want it to look nice, but I didn't mean a lot by that. I just like, hey, I want it to look nice just in general. So I was like, hey, if you want to decorate and just make sure it looks good. Well, next thing I know, she's spending like $800 on decorations. And then I hear she's taking our Christmas tree from home and actually going through and taking it there. She had our house cleaner helping her set everything up. So it was the two of them working at it. I'm like, so you spend money on a hall, you're paying our house cleaner to go set all this stuff up. So I'm thinking economics a big thing for me. So 99 is on monetary end, and hers is all about aesthetics and it looking good. Well, my aesthetic is at 16 out of 100. So my aesthetics, I really don't give a shit what it looks like for the most part, and I'm really not going to pay much attention to it. So she spends almost 5 hours decorating this place, and the owner of the place was there. He's like, oh my God, it's never looked this good. And, everybody that came said how great it looked. And I was like, yeah, it looks nice. It was like, and my wife said to me later, because we end up in an argument on something stupid over it. And she's like, I did all of that for you. And she doesn't understand, for me, that economics so much more than aesthetic. Aesthetic doesn't mean a lot. I want it to look nice, but I'd rather have the money left over and put it towards something else.
That's so good. That's so good. So quickly, we're almost out of time. So there's 7 different motivators. So if I wanted to find out, let's do a little dialogue back and forth with me. Like if I was going to explain the DISC score, I'd explain the different ones, and then I'd say what's most important. So try to find out for me, explain the 7 different motivators and try to explain them in an easy way so people can find out what their motivators are.
I would tell if they want a free DISC report, if they send me an email, I'll give you my email. It's lee@leetessier.com. Let me put it in the chat. And I'll send you guys the link, and I'll get Alex to give you guys a free DISC report, and it will have your motivators.
Okay.
And that would be super helpful for you to see it and read the report, because it's about 80 pages long. But the summary, the DISC is good for you to know of your natural behavior, if you're more dominant, if you're steady. One of the things that he said with me, because my higher C, I always think of just analytics. And he said, no, you're looking for proven systems. He's like, that's why your C so high is you just want to know that it's proven before you go waste your time, because your time's valuable and money's important. So if it's not proven, you don't want to waste your time and money. So I was like, all right, that's interesting for me to know why my C's higher and to be a CS. But I would say do it, read the report, because it's just, there's so much to it. And the more you take time and understand yourself, the better off you are. Like if we were just guessing, like I took him to a Christmas party and it was so interesting. It was almost like a trick pony there. Like he was going through, he would have a 2-minute conversation with somebody, and then they would be like, all right, well, tell me about myself. And he would go through and like hit 20 things of like how they act, what they do, why they do it, how they react to things. And people are like, holy shit. And I was just amazed. He was, he used to be an engineer for Boeing. And then he got into the behavior side because he ended up at Boeing, I guess, between the scientists and the CEO, and actually had to have translation between the two of them to make sure that they got the things that needed to be done. Because CEO didn't understand, like, hey, why are these, scientists saying this? He could explain it in a more meaningful way that meant something to him. And I think that's one of the things that we get better at conversion, because we talk about conversion in general, and I'm not trying to talk over people's heads or not make sense, but conversion gets better when we understand how people want to be talked to and communicated with. And then we communicate with them in that fashion.
I will tell you, we used to have every person, when they went on a listing appointment, we actually had them go over the DISC, and we said to them, ask them, explain the DISC score, and then ask them what their DISC score is right at the beginning of the appointment. Because if they're a high D and you start going through a whole bunch of details, they're going to say, this quack is not for me.
Right.
I think it's so important.
If you add a lot, that's one of the questions that doesn't get asked a lot of time, period, is how do you want me to communicate with you? Right. So not only style, but if you ask them, like, you can read them a little bit of knowing, hey, are they fast? Because a DI is typically much faster. A CS is slower. but also then you got to be careful because of their motivators. You don't always know what their motivators are. So mine is a CS, but I have a high D. So I'm kind of mixed depending on how big the decision. The bigger decision, the slower I take. Like the bigger the end result is, the slower I make a decision.
Let's ask a couple of questions. Like if you were asking, so wouldn't a question be like, as far as the motivator, what's more important to you? Is it more important for you to sell this house as quick as possible or for you to get the highest price possible? Would that be maybe one of the motivators?
You could. I mean, communication style, what did they, like if they, sometimes they're complaining about the other agent that they dealt with in the past. I was like, okay, tell me what you're looking for. Tell me what you would like just so I can communicate. Like, because sometimes they'll say, well, they didn't communicate well. Okay, what does that mean to you? Oh, well, they would only call me once a week. If they say they only call me once a day, I'm like, holy shit, this is a high needs person. I don't know that I want to deal with them, first of all. So it helps you uncover levels, but you just have to ask, all right, what does that sound like? What are you looking for? Tell me what you're looking for in an agent, first of all. How do you want to be communicated with? How often do you want to be communicated with? And what preference is that? Hey, I want to be communicated by text. I just want a quick update. That's a higher D. If somebody's like, hey, I need a phone call. So higher SC, needs, and then they need a phone call. So they need to talk to you, not text. So they're just more relational. They want to talk. They're a higher I in there. So if you listen for these things, listen to the small words. I only want to be text. No, I have to talk to you. How often? I want to talk to you once a week. Okay, great. How about Fridays at 3 p.m. that we check in once a week? Like, find out what it is, and you start asking questions. It's amazing what you get answered. They'll tell you exactly how to communicate with them. They'll tell you what their expectations are. And you could just flat out just say, tell me what your expectations are. What do you want from an agent? Amazing what people will answer.
Love it. Well, this has been amazing. We're out of time, Lee. Tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
Yep. So leetessier.com. I think we have all our channels on there. So Lee Tessier Team is my Instagram and Lee Tessier Team Facebook. My office number is the best way at 410-638-9555.
Awesome. Well, you guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up shortly.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review so we can get this out to more agents. And tune in next week for another power-packed episode. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Podcast.